feeding a baby on the other side of the computer.
No worries.
Ray's here.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm here.
We're
Just
all
can't
here.
see.
Go ahead, Holly.
Hi there.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were live, and we are. Oh, turn it down. Silly Kelly. All right. Happy Wine Wednesday, everybody. Hope you have had a fabulous week and that your Wednesday is going well. And your seahorses are fantastic and all the yada yada that I say every time. Sipping on Pinot Noir. Let's jump right in. Today, just to let you folks know, I've been hectic busy. I finally got the first Women in Reefing video put out, so check that out for sure. And the second one, which will be Deborah with the Sea Dragons, will be out within the next few days. That'll be on both Women in Reefing and my page, Seahorse Whisperer page. So those are upcoming. And I finally got the tank. I did get the all-in-one tank, which we'll talk more in a little bit. And just had to wait on a stand. But we keep saying it week after week, but absolutely for sure, it's in writing. My seahorses are being shipped on Monday, so I'm excited. And I've made a few videos showing the pre-cycling, and the stand was supposed to be here today, should be here tomorrow, and we'll get some more content on that. So just to that was my week. I've been kind of hectic. So it is open chat again tonight, but I'm sure we'll have a fantastic chat as always. Hey Dylan's, how are you? I actually just left. I was with people in the clubhouse on Brief Dude. So if we have a shorter stream because everybody's over there, all good. We'll talk seahorses and have our fun. Also, it's actually, this is going to sound so silly, you guys, but I have never seen it where it's actually thundering, lightning, and snowing at the same time. Am I crazy? I was like,
Oh, thunder snow.
that's what's going on up in Indiana right now. Thunder, snow. It was like sunny. Now it's thunder, snow. In 20 minutes, it'll probably be sunny again. Freaking Indiana.
Well, Alicia was under a gale force warning earlier, and he had to shut down all our bands, literally lock everything down.
For what?
The wind, and it was pouring down rain, and the wind was blowing to gale force, and they were under a warning.
Oh, geez.
Oh, hurricane.
Oh.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was bad.
Well, I shouldn't be complaining then, because that sounds much worse than what I'm experiencing. I just don't like it, and I'm a little worried about the connection. So if we start going janky, somebody in the audience tell me, because yeah, it's pretty bad outside. But that's terrible to hear. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'd rather have rain than the snow that I'm getting.
Right. No, right. Exactly. I can't.
I just had to go out and put a heater in the greenhouse.
No kidding.
It's down at 30, down to 30 right now on the Fahrenheit scale, but it's going down to 16. So with all the tomato plants and pepper plants I got out there, there's about 20 of each. And I could go through all the work of bringing them in, but they're not small plants anymore.
Right.
And besides, 2 of them are actually planted in the greenhouse. I don't want to have to dig them up.
So we're 73 here today and supposed to be 46 on Monday.
Really?
It was 80 here a couple days ago.
So I guess I won't need a cold pack, probably.
Probably not. We'll check my area too, but yeah, we were.
Yeah, it's been crazy lately.
For anybody watching, we were a little worried because it's Holly, the one shipping me my seahorses. Woo! It's going to be. She lives in California, and it was supposed to be really hot on Monday, so we were a little worried about cold packs. But yeah, if it's cold there and cold here, we'll be good. Funny how it's goes up and down, and
it's been crazy lately.
Right, exactly.
Well,
I hate that.
If it's really bad, snow and stuff, delay the shipping.
Well, dang it, I don't want to. I've delayed it enough, but we will, of course. We'll keep them safe, of course.
But it's not just the snow and stuff that's causing the shipping problems. It's COVID has screwed up the shipping lanes. Like the way that it would get from Holly to you 2 years ago is nothing like it is right now.
Right.
So it might, if it would have been able to get there overnight before, it's probably going to take 4 or 5 times as long now.
Well, it's like mine took 7 days.
Just because they have to take different shipping routes.
Mine took 7 days to get to me from Hawaii.
Well, quit scaring Holly, y'all. Quit it.
Well, I haven't heard though the UPS is having those kind of issues though. I've heard a lot
Right.
about FedEx, but does
Uh,
anyone know about UPS?
Everybody's having the problems.
It's
I can't even
UPS
get
too?
seahorses from where Chris is in Australia right now
Uh-huh.
because the patterns are all screwed up.
Well, I'm getting mail every other day, and I have been now for a couple of months. I don't get
Mhm.
mail every day anymore.
See, I got to be honest. I haven't had any trouble over here. Just to be real
I
with you guys.
haven't either.
But I believe you that it's messed up all over. I just in
Well, my
Holly's.
grandson's Christmas presents ended up in Colorado.
Oh, geez, that's no good. But well, we got Holly's got a friend there, and I'm gonna stay positive and we'll check everything
Yeah, I
first.
think it'll be okay.
Me
They
too.
seem to think so. I don't think they've had any problems,
Right.
on our end where we ship from. So
Good. Hey,
they seem to think the road's pretty easy.
yep. Well, I am certainly excited. And Miss Cheryl, just in case anything starts freezing up, let's have the conversation we had right before we went live. You said you're really happy with your seahorses, right?
I really am. They sent the Vibrance 2 with them that I started using more as an experiment because I've never enriched, frozen, or added any kind of chemicals to a tank. What I'm seeing is a much more rapid growth rate, much more rapid weight gain,
Hmm.
high energy. And one of my males who was always having a problem, he was always ataxic. He would swim for a little bit, and he'd try to hitch, and he'd kind of flop over, and he'd lay on his side. He is swimming normally now, and I'm trying to figure out, is it the vibrance, which is supposedly enriches the lipid content of the food, which is essential for saltwater fish to grow. And I'm going to experiment. I'm going to report back in 6 months, but I'm actually very impressed with what I'm seeing from the vibrance.
Which is awesome because when we've talked before, and other people have had success with vibrance, and we've just always kind of come to that opinion, and what other people have advised is not to soak frozen feeds in things like vibrance because it comes right off in the water and adds to organics. But if it's this beneficial, I'm really excited to hear your report in 6 months.
I have not, and of course, being that I brought them in and they were suddenly put into a tank, I've been testing my water parameters daily.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yet to see any spikes in anything.
Nice. But we can't really test. I mean, and I'm not arguing with you because I'm anxious to hear if it
There's
does
things,
work.
yeah. There's a lot of things we can't test for.
Right. Well, I mean, but you're so experienced that you're gonna know if something starts going south. So I think you're the perfect person to test it, and I will be more than happy, to find out that we found something else that will work. So I'm
Well,
curious what Dan says, but
yeah, I am too. The
yeah.
thing is, too, like I said earlier, their fecal output is completely different.
Oh yeah, tell us that.
Yeah, it's coming out brown to reddish because the vibrance is a reddish coloration, and it's much more solid. When you go to siphon it up, it doesn't just fall apart. You get little solid, almost little sausages that
Yeah.
come apart. And which is really intriguing because it's a very different fecal output than what I've seen over the years.
You just never know what we'll chat about on Wine Wednesday, right? Hey. But no, you're right, because usually seahorse poo is usually like purplish. So,
Yeah, exactly.
interesting.
And we tell
I think
people
I
that,
must be colorblind because in 18 years I've never seen purplish.
Okay.
Well, it's like a purplish gray
Yeah.
kind.
but
Yeah.
this is actually coming out between brownish to with a slight reddish tinge, and it's very solid. It doesn't break apart like what I'm used to in the past. At first, I was thinking, where am I getting all this debris in my tank?
Fun. How funny. Ray, did you ever use any supplements like that?
Nope.
No.
No, the only supplements I ever use, um, Dan had sent me some packages of his
Dan's feed?
what was it?
The Dan's feed?
Dan's feed. He sent me some of that and some. Oh, I can't pull it out here. My mind isn't onto it. A couple other things.
Are you thinking the probiotics?
No, I had my own probiotics. I buy the McF direct from California.
Mm-hmm.
I've stopped doing it now because I used it for a couple of years and never saw any difference. I quit using it. I haven't seen any difference. So
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I've never used anything I've never soaked frozen foods in anything, but mainly just because, what Dan had said was logical that, you're adding to the organics of the tank. But like I said,
I've
Cheryl's,
never put anything in frozen foods.
yeah. Well, but Cheryl's noticing good things. She's going to report back in 6 months. And the cool part is, if anybody would notice something going south, it's her. So I'm not worried, and I'm curious to see how it ends up.
I'm curious as to why I'm seeing such nice weight gains and
Yeah.
already seeing visible growth on them after going 7 days without eating.
Yeah. No, true. I certainly can't explain it. Hey, Salty, nice to see you. Dylan, I see you. I'm so glad you're doing it all. Oh, Dylan said, I'm so glad you're doing it all in one. My tank is an all in one, and I'm having decent success with it. And I can't wait to see how Seahorse Expert sets it up properly compared to mine. Hey, now, don't put that much pressure on me. No, but yeah, I'm excited to share for sure. And what I did figure out, the tank, we'll get, I'm not trying to jump around, but he commented, so now I got to say it. The tank is like an odd shape. I don't know if everybody saw my video on Facebook and Instagram, but it's like a 40 breeder, but then it's an all-in-one. In fact, I had heck trying to find a stand that it would fit on, because long story short, when I went to buy the tank, the stand was not good. It had scratches on it. The door was crooked, and they wanted like over $300 for the stand. And I'm like, no. So I thought I was going to put it on a table, and then it didn't fit. Blah 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 blah. So I'm like, I got to buy a stand. I went online, and it seems like 40 breeders must be extremely popular because I could not find a stinking stand. So the stand I ended up ordering, I'm not real happy with. It's not like pretty, but we're doing this seahorses, right? Not stand, don't care. So, anyways, but the tank is really oddly, like, it's 36 by 18 by like 16, I think. So it's just really oddly shaped, but I think it'll be good. I had to pick between that and the cube, and I kept going back and forth. Oh, I couldn't decide. And Tanya was fine. My daughter was finally like, get this one because the all-in-one compartments are bigger, right? So in the cube, you only had like 3.5 by 3.5, whereas in the tank that I bought, I've got 5 by 5 space, for other equipment. So I had Salty Reef helped, and then Harkins Aquatics helped me pick out a skimmer. We had a really hard time finding one of those too. It's like you can't, like, I guess it's the shipping and the routes, as Ray was saying, because everything's out of stock everywhere. But I found one that Harkins Aquatics said is good. I'm sorry, Chris Harkins, I should say now, since the company got changed. But he approved, and I got the UV. I got a UV stereo. I don't know why I can't talk to them. A UV sterilizer for this all-in-one, which was very cool. And then what I decided, I was talking with Dan. Cheryl, you can give me some input on this too. But I was talking with Dan, and the third piece of really important equipment, obviously, skimmer, UV, and then the K1 reactor, right? So I was going to buy this reactor that's made for all-in-one tanks. But then I found out it only held like 250 milliliters. And with K1, you got to have room to, have it tumble. So I was like, that's not going to, I don't know that that'll work. And so Dan was kind of trying to do all the calculations for me. And his big suggestion was a 2 liter. Unfortunately, a 2 liter, it fits in the 5 by 5 space, but it would be above the water, which is, you can't have that. So I found a juice bottle, some white grape juice or something, and I'm going to make the K1 reactor. So keep an eye out for that video. It might be quite funny. I'm so good with tools.
K1 media reactors, you can turn just about anything into a K1 media reactor.
Right.
And the thing is, if you have good filtration, I saw the pictures you posted, and you've got a lot of room in the back of that tank for filtration. and it's narrow, so you're going to have to go with a smaller bottle. But like some of my tanks, because I've got other stuff in my sumps, I've got two K1 media reactors in my nursery systems.
Right.
It's they fit, and it just makes it easier to maintain stability.
I'm curious though, because I am getting ready to make this. I've got the K1 cycling, but make the actual container. And I've seen, I actually did on a freshwater tank a very long time ago. I was breeding angelfish and I just wanted to try it out. And I did kind of like the same thing, but with straws. Have you ever seen that? Where you make a little bubbler type deal with straws? Anyways, it worked very, very well, believe it or not. And I've got pictures somewhere. I'll try to find it. But my question to you is, I've seen these homemade reactors made with pumps underneath and some with sponge filters underneath and some with just air lines. What do you suggest?
I have only done them. I use basically old skimmer bodies that I gutted.
Right.
And I fill them with K1. They are submerged under the water. They have a pump that actually goes up through where the old outflow or the return was.
Okay.
And so basically, I've got water going through them constantly. And then I've got an airline, a rigid airline in the bottom that keeps it circulating. And I've got holes in the sides to drain them off.
Well, I do have, I know you, because I interviewed you about it, and I know you used an old Coral Life hang-on skimmer, and I have one of them. So maybe I'll get with you on the side and try to.
Yeah. Will it fit?
Yeah, I think it will.
Because if that'll fit, I mean, I'm using a Coral Life skimmer on a 58-gallon tank with a 29-gallon sump, and it does a great job. I mean, I can get plenty of media in it.
Nice. Well, that was my other question, and I was waiting for Dan's response, and then I had to get on. But how do you calculate the amount of K1? Like I always just use a bunch of it, but I'm saying like I want to when I was faced with the dilemma, I might only have room for 250 milliliters in this reactor. I didn't feel like it would be enough, but I mean, it's not like you can literally count it out. So how do you determine how much? Do you just test and figure it out that way, or?
Basically, what I did, because I was starting out with it was totally experimental when I was starting out, is I just checked my water parameters once I got it cycled.
Gotcha.
And it found, quite frankly, it doesn't take anywhere near as much K1 as I think a lot of people think.
Oh, good.
Because otherwise my skimmers would not be insufficient for some. I mean, at one point, my bioload on a 58-gallon with a 29-gallon sump, and just one of my skimmers filled with the K1 media, I had over 70 juvenile seahorses in that.
Oh my gosh, that's great. Yeah, see, I'm only gonna have 2, so we're gonna be fine either way. I just like to, so that I can, so when someone else asks me, how much K1 would you put in there? I want to be able to tell them, and there's not really an answer. It's like
you want enough that it can easily tumble. Basically, you want to make sure it's going to tumble.
What'd you say, Cheryl? I mean, Holly?
I found a formula online. I watched some videos about how to use K1, and I forgot which video it was. I saw a really good one. It was showing you how to use like a 3-gallon water jug, plastic water jug, put holes in it and run an airline through it. But there's actually a formula to figure out how much K1 for how many gallons. And I've seen it on a few of those videos and stuff. So I think you could probably Google it and find out.
Maybe. I took the easy way out, and I just asked Dan. He said I'll have to calculate it.
The problem I have with these formula that you find is they're calculating what somebody thinks is needed for a certain volume system.
Yeah.
It doesn't take into account the fact that one might have 4 seahorses in that same volume, another one might have 2, another one might have 6, might have other fish other than seahorses.
I read something.
As far as I'm concerned,
start. I mean, I usually overdo it on everything like that, but it gives me an idea where to start. Kind of like when I'm adding ammonia, do it for the ammonia cycling. I need a guide of like, what am I going to start with?
Right.
Yeah.
know, otherwise it's going to take me 20 years.
Right. No, and I was
Well,
going to say, I read a couple of different articles that agreed with what Ray was saying, and they had, I did find calculations, and those calculations were based on feeding. How much do you plan to feed
but
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
the water volume? But still, math, me, no. So I was like, Dan,
yeah,
help.
the problem with that is basically when you're dealing with seahorses, what is your real bioload?
Right.
Mhm.
And that's where it gets tricky. One of the reasons I keep extra cycled K1 media on hand and extra filters and pumps is in case I start to get into a problem, I can drop a second one in one of my sumps if I have to. So far, across my fingers, I haven't had to do that. But I was really pushing the window with over 70 3-inch hippocampus erectus at a 58-gallon.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I was going to say, Cheryl, that advice is great. And I'm actually doing that also. Like, I have a bucket of K1 cycling as
Mm-hmm.
we speak. So I will have extra if there's any problem. And I do, of course, have the other running tanks that I can, use if there's any problem, or just do a dang water change, as Holly said. But I want to do this right to show others how to do it. So I
Yeah.
just wondered. And the other thing with K1 too is I noticed in the videos that I've watched in the past and done in the past, and when I used K1 in the past, mine never got as gross looking as theirs, but it worked. Like, does it, like in these videos, they kind of imply that it has to change color to be cycled, and mine didn't. I mean, it was kind of gross,
Was
but
it
not,
you
wasn't me.
or who was it? Somebody was put in some K1 media and then tested and got all kinds of weird colors on an API test kit.
No, it wasn't me.
Okay. Well, I ran into the same thing when I first started working with K1. It, if it's not cycled, the colors that you get with API are going to have absolutely no value because
Okay.
you'll get yellow on ammonia, you'll get purple, you'll get all kinds of weird colors that don't make any sense. And so
Okay.
be aware of that. The thing is, though, the tank that you've got, I saw the pictures of it. You've got quite a bit of room in
Yeah.
the all-in-one in the filter in the
I've
back
never used
compartment.
anything like K1. I've
Never.
never used anything but rock.
Well, see, and that's the other thing. I mean, I'm really just testing these things out so I can share what I think about the all-in-one, about the all of this in videos, but because I'm gonna be overly done. I have rock cycling, I have the Marine Pure spheres cycling, and I have K1 cycling. So it's not like I'm actually worried. I just want to be able to answer the question if somebody else wants to know. Because Ray, I had only used K1 once. All my other tanks were rock, macro, and scrubber. That's what I did. But that's why I did test K1 on the baby tanks, on the tubs that I made, but I just didn't keep them up for long enough to really feel secure in giving advice about it. So that's why I want to do it this time too. But
Well,
to each their own.
the key to K1 is to keep it moving,
Yep.
and your airline will do that, and keep a water flow going because it is self-cleaning.
Sure, right. Hey, and
And it's easy to use.
that was my other question for you, though, Cheryl, because I told Holly, because we were going to try to get the Seahorses sent this week, and I had the stand problem, and then my significant other supposedly accidentally turned off. I've got the K1 cycling and I've got a pump moving it in there, and he actually accidentally turned it off. It was only off for less than 30 minutes before I discovered it, but I still felt like I had to start over. But if you had an electrical outage or something, how can you tell if it's still okay? Obviously by testing, but is there
Yeah.
anything else to?
The thing is, if you have electrical outage and you're running a tank, you're probably gonna have some kind of at least battery backup.
I do, yeah.
And I would recommend keeping an airline going in the main tank and in the K1 because the aeration is the key to the K1 being effective.
So
It's not
even a few minutes, you're toast?
it shouldn't have a negative big impact over just a few minutes, but if you're talking 2 or 3 hours,
Right.
I would hook up an airline.
Gotcha. Okay. Very interesting. Well, yeah. So you guys can all go on this journey with me as I try to make the K1 reactor and see how this tank goes. I'm sure it'll be great either way. I'm just excited, you know. It's been a
It's
while
gonna
since I had
be
new
fun.
seahorses.
And the thing is, it's interesting if you can, and I'm sure if anybody can pull it off, you're going to be able to.
No, of course.
For people that are just starting out, having an all-in-one is much more doable
Right.
than trying to go in with the systems that some of us have, where we're running, large sumps and massive skippers and all of this stuff.
Sure. And as I said the previous week, and hi, I can't pronounce your name, but hello. Welcome. But yeah, no, as I said the previous week, it's all about testing, and I do want to try to find something to make things easier on people trying to start up seahorse tanks, and they're different now. Like I couldn't believe I found one with this much space in the back. And I couldn't believe that they've now made all these skimmers. I mean, the skimmer that I found is rated double the tank size, and it fits in the back of the all-in-one. So yay, that's what we need, right? So they've got all this new equipment that goes with the easier to do all-in-ones. And Dylan, don't you darn worry, because I'm sure yours is awesome too. But yeah, I just think they've got a lot more options now. And the other thing is, we learn as we go. Here on this channel and in Seahorse Sources group, the people that have been doing this a long time, like Cheryl, Ray, even Holly, and of course Stan and I, all share what we've experienced, what we know works. But that doesn't mean that in 20 years or even in 5 years we might not figure out something else that might work too, or better. You know what I mean? So we give the basics that you need to do it right. But as Cheryl's proving, we might, have a different opinion in 6 months about vibrance.
Well, it's like I've got a lot of friends in the reefer community, and
Yep.
some of these people are actual professionals that make their livings growing and selling different types of corals and fish. And I've got one friend that uses the Triton method, never does water changes.
Right.
I've got another friend who doesn't use anything fancy, never does water changes. I've got other friends that do weekly water changes.
Yep.
It's a totally mixed bag, and part of it is you work within your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I agree 100%. And I even if this is vastly successful, I still would always recommend a sump. I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, literally didn't have enough room to try to pull off something like Holly's beautiful new system. I still have tanks, even the ones that aren't full of water, I ended up finally taking down the 90-gallon SCA. That's a 90, we can't even lift it. So I was telling Sean, I was like, well, why don't we just use that stand? We could, put the tank in storage and just use that stand. It'd look kind of funny, because the tank's so much smaller, but it would fit and it would work. And he was like, I'm not lifting that tank till we move. It's not going to happen. I don't know if you guys know what the SCA brand, but it's like, I know it's not an inch, but it's like 3/4 of an inch Starfire glass or something. It's ridiculous. It took like 3 men to lift it to begin with. So I just didn't have room.
Tank from those.
Yeah, it was. But
well, the thing is too, I build a lot of my stands simply because it's a lot less expensive, and I can make them the height I want, where I can still get my 29-gallon tanks, sumps under the tanks, and still have plenty of room to work around, move skimmers in and out, and that kind of stuff. So part of my problem is with stands is I'm so darn picky anymore.
Right.
Because I'm not going to fight with them.
Well, I thought about that too. I really did think about just making another stand, but I'm not as talented with that kind of stuff as you, Cheryl. The stand that I made for when I had the multi-tank system I was trying to set up for Fry or Adolescence, I guess. I tried to build that stand, and then it just didn't turn out well. I didn't do a very good job. So it worked, but I don't know. I'm not as talented as that.
Well, I was working the room addition put on my house. I was also building some stands, and here's all the construction guys looking at me when I bring out the radial arm saw, and I looked up and said, "Run! The crazy lady's got the saw out."
Love it. I wish I could do more of that stuff. I think it's awesome. My dad is, I mean, my father was an engineer, and he's always, like my whole life, we never had to get our cars fixed because he fixed our cars. We never had to, you know, get many things because he just built them. He built half of our house. He built a barn on the back, you know. He's one of those really smart people where he would call the electricians or whatever out to ask them how they would run the electricity, and then he would just pay really good attention and then do it. But he was so smart, he'd do a good job, you know. And I did not want to bug him about it. He's already helped me make stands before. I didn't want to bug him, so it'll be
Well,
fine. I don't, I don't
yeah.
care what the stand looks like.
For me, it was easy because my dad always loved and did all kinds of he built bridges and all kinds of cool stuff for the property that my parents owned. And I was always fascinated. So from the time I was little bitty, he was teaching me how to do this stuff.
Nice.
And how to keep from cutting my fingers off or getting hurt.
That's awesome.
It was just something I was fascinated, and so he taught me.
See, my dad always wanted to teach me, and I was like, I'm not getting under that. So, my fault completely, totally my fault. Hey, I wanted to ask too, Cheryl, about the Ocean Rider Seahorses. Last time you said they were really extremely vibrant colors, and I think you said was it yellow and orange, or?
I have two that definitely stay yellow.
Okay.
I have two that, depending on where they are and what they're hitched to, will turn orange. And one female, I have a green.
That's green. That's what
octopus coral, and she likes to turn green when she hitches to that.
I forgot. That's what I was thinking of. Is the green? That's so crazy. And they're sticking. They're sticking with that. They're still doing it.
They have not changed.
Awesome. Hey, but new info.
I know a lot of people that get them, but they put them under high-powered lights, and they have dark hitches and stuff. And one of the things that Ocean Rider says about them, give them low light, give them orange and yellow hitches.
Yep. Nope. That makes sense. For sure. I'm a little fearful of putting rock in the tank again, because that's what happened in my 65-gallon. I had these bright colored seahorses, put them in with a bunch of rock, and they turned the color of the rock. They were like gray, you know. So
their job is to blend in.
Yeah. Sure.
And if you could put them in bright light, they're going to be hiding in the rocks. With the lower light, these guys are perpetual motion all over the tank. You'd think they were starving to death.
They're healthy little heifers. But no, yeah, and
they're constantly moving.
That's awesome.
They'll change, like I've got a red hitch in there, and when the one female that likes to get orange and red spots on her, she's really pretty. She'll go over and hitch to the red hitch, and then she'll get spots all over in orange and red.
Awesome. Well, I agree with you 100% on the lighting too, because that's when I was first trying to breed years and years ago. And my male, I think it was his first or second pregnancy, and he was doing great. Everything was great. And I know it was at least the second pregnancy, because I knew that he was capable of having fine fry because he'd already had a batch. And I changed the light to try to please the macros. And the light that I got was extremely bright. It was like a plant light, a freshwater plant light, 24/7 fluval, I think. And the macros loved it, but the male actually had, I don't know what you call it in Seahorse world, a miscarriage. He released the fry too early. They were like little not formed seahorses. And I do know that, I think, who was it, Heather or someone, was capable of keeping one of those type of not developed fry alive, but I was not, and I didn't even think it was possible, so I didn't really try that hard. But yeah, it was the light. And what you said about them moving around, because I know a lot of new people watch this channel, it's not just the lighting, and the colorful hitches, but the movement sometimes has to do with the flow, wouldn't you say? Because my seahorses were really kind of like boring. They didn't swim around much. And then once I added flow, man, they were dancing in it. They were up in it. Oh,
Well, rectus are, from my perspective, are notorious for playing in the flow and body surfing.
right.
And I mean, these guys jump into the airline and get blasted up to the top and go right back and do it again. So it's obvious that they're not being hurt by it. But it's one of those things too. One of the things Carol told me from Ocean Rider is they do a lot of hand feeding of these seahorses,
Mm-hmm.
and with their tours and stuff, the seahorses are constantly being exposed to people.
Right. Makes sense.
And I think, yeah, I think that makes a big difference because the seahorses are like, oh, I know what that is. That's the food bringer.
Yeah.
Hang on just a second, guys. Hey, Patty, I'm actually live. I've got to call you back, okay? Okay, bye. Sorry. Anyways, she'll laugh because, yeah. Anyways, no, I agree. And Dylan said that his male is always white green, but still active like crazy. And then the other seahorse is rock color. Right. And don't get me wrong, I still loved my rock colored seahorses. I just, one of them was the hybrid, and it was such a cool pattern, and it was like yellow with these beautiful spots. And then when I put it in, it just turned rock colored. So if I still loved it for sure.
Yeah.
Didn't give up on it or anything. It was my own fault, but
well,
maybe yours is only getting those colors because it never got the measles vaccination.
Maybe that's it. Darn seahorse, get your vaccine for sure. But
years ago, I got a seahorse, a male, a very large male from Draco Marine, and that was Jorge Gomez Jurado's business. This seahorse came in and looked like sterling silver.
Oh, wow.
This seahorse never changed color.
Wow.
He stayed. In fact, the female that he paired up with was one that I raised, and she would go over and turn her face, just her head and her face, silver every morning as a greeting, and the rest of her body would stay brown.
Oh.
Wow.
And it was the strangest thing. And I mean, this male never changed color.
Well, that's my big my first seahorse, my big male rectus that was my big breeder for so much time. He was like, people used to message me all the time, where can I get a purple seahorse? Because every picture I had, he was purple, beautiful, and blue eyes. I swear. It wasn't just reflection. He had blue eyes. Did you say yep, Cheryl?
Just that some of them change constantly, some of them stay, and a lot of it is going to be environmental, but it's not all environmental.
You don't think, huh?
Just thinking, when you were talking about the seahorses liking the flow and swimming into the flow of the output, out of the 7 species that I've had, I only had 2 that didn't do that. That one is my abs. They never do it, and the dwarfs.
Well, that makes sense on the dwarfs.
Because I never had anything in the dwarfs, but the other 5, I don't know of any of them that I had, even individuals of the different species that didn't get into the flow.
And isn't that crazy that for so many years everybody said low flow for seahorses? I mean, whoa, no, wrong. But yeah, no, I that's interesting though, Ray, that because so your barbs enjoyed high flow too?
Oh yeah.
Really? I mean, I guess that's true because my barbs did get more active when I added more flow, but they were just the 2 that I had, my very favorite seahorses, by the way, were just so prissy and picky. It was like, I don't know. But anyways, no, completely agree. And hey, Patty, no worries. We're just chatting tonight. But oh, guys, I completely forgot to tell you, Richard Ross messaged today, said he's coming next week. So, we know he's really, really, really busy. So hopefully nothing will come up. But hopefully I'll be doing a post either today or tomorrow letting you guys know. He's worked with the pygmy seahorses. He's done a lot with cuttlefish. He's done lots of stuff he's going to come chat with us about. So hopefully it'll be this coming week. Forgot to tell you. So look out for that one.
Refresh my memory again. What's he do?
He is, oh my gosh, you're going to ask me that on the spot. He is I believe, biologist. Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong. He's with California Academy of Sciences. I know that. And do you know, Cheryl, exactly what his title is?
No,
I do not.
What's his specialty?
Oh, well,
What's
I mean,
he coming up to talk about?
well, I was going to ask him about the pygmy seahorses that he worked with. And I was going to ask him about his latest projects. He just works with a lot of cool critters, we'll put it that way. But yeah, I mean, the main focus for me was a little bit more about the pygmy seahorses. But he did that quite a bit ago, so we want to learn about what he's up to lately. And yeah, he's just really awesome.
Who are you talking about?
Richard Ross.
He was breeding them, right? Was it? Weren't they breeding them?
Yep.
Yeah, he's breeding pygmy seahorses, and it's the the California
Academy of Sciences, right?
Yeah, in the Bay Area.
Well, and you guys will learn all about all this cool stuff he's done next week. But yeah, he was supposed to come another time, and things just didn't work out timing wise. But he let me know that he wants to come next week. So yay!
When he was propagating gorgonias, they found was the key to breeding the pygmy seahorses. If I remember right, they had to learn how to propagate a specific gorgonian for the pygmy seahorses.
They spent 3 years. They spent 3 years propagating the gorgs that that particular species of pygmy lived on.
Yep, and I will ask him, we will ask him, but my guess is that was probably harder than the pygmies. You know, the actual keeping that the gorgonia alive was probably, but he, you know, that's what we can ask him about the symbiotic relationship, and he's done a lot more projects since then. That's like the key that I figured would draw in the seahorse folks. But go ahead, Cheryl.
The University of Hawaii tried to raise the same pygmies, and they didn't have a whole lot of success. And one of the realizations they came to, this was before they realized that they only hitch to one species.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm not worried. It'll be very interesting. And like I said, he's done a lot of other work. He works with octopus. He works with, he does some really cool things. So we'll hear from him very hopefully next week. He says he's coming. So yay.
So Holly, are you getting nervous now?
Huh?
Are you getting nervous about shipping?
I wasn't until the weather got all screwy.
Yeah.
You know, then I'm like, well, I need to figure out, do I plan for the weather on my side, on where they're going, or along the way? So, I mean, I was kind of thinking from here, they have like a 2-hour truck ride from the UPS to the airport in the evening hours, like between 4 p.m. and around 6-ish. So if it's hot during that time, I'll need to put an ice pack in, right? But once I figure they get to the airport and they're leaving to where they're going, I don't really know what they're gonna you know, so that's the only thing.
Well, I think it's a lot better for them to be cool than hot.
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh, go ahead.
Always remember what happens with seahorses is they go torpid. In other words, they kind of go to sleep if they're cool and there's no light.
And it'll be dark. They'll be sleeping.
They'll when they wake up and you open the box, they're going to be a little freaked out. But they get through it fine. Heat is a killer for them.
You don't want to cook them,
So if there's any doubt, throw in the pack.
I might, depending on what your weather. If your weather's cold, I might need a warm pack, you know, or I might need nothing at all.
I would personally think nothing, but we'll see on, when it's coming.
I'm leaning that way as long as the weather doesn't change. If it all of a sudden gets hot, then I've got
Supposed to
cold
get
packs
warmer
and
next
I
week.
have heat packs, so we could go either way. I'm
Well, the
prepared.
thing is it's like Ocean Rider when they shipped the Seahorses to me.
Mhm.
They had no heat packs or cold packs,
Hmm.
but they had much thicker styrofoam insulation than I've seen most other companies use.
Mhm.
And basically they came in, they were running right at 68.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well, and Ray, you said it's supposed to be hotter next week, but is that like
Continent wise, it's supposed to be getting warmer next week.
hmm,
The cold spell, like what we're getting here, has come up from down the States. And I think by the weekend, it's supposed to pretty well be cleared out. And sometime Monday or Tuesday, um, things should be a lot better both down there and up here. But you might get the better weather a bit before us, like about a day ahead.
I never trust the dang weatherman anymore. He always lies to me. But but
Do you
no.
know why that is? Do you know why that
Why
is,
is that?
Kelly? Okay. What are they called? Meteorologists. Meteor is a great big rock hurls through space. So they're specifically designed to study big rocks hurling through space.
Gotcha. Well, either way, we'll check right around the time, Holly. But I'm not sweating it. And yeah, for anybody who joined, I know Miss Patty jumped in. You missed me chatting about all the equipment, and I'm making my own K1 reactor. But I'll talk to you about it on the side, and definitely, guys, check out the videos when they come up. But
It's much harder doing your first ship, but I remember the first time I ever shipped Seahorses. I was up all night.
oh yeah, stressed.
And all of a sudden they're like, the Seahorses are fine.
Yep.
What's wrong with you?
Well, the first time I ever shipped Seahorses was to Felicia McCully. I think it was for her birthday. Anyways, I shipped them and I did everything wrong, just to let y'all know. Like when I double bagged them, I used something wrong. I did invert the bag into another one, but I did something wrong. It ended up like, and I think the bags I got, Holly, you talked about this I think last week. The bags I got were long and not wide, and so when they ended up, when the box was turned, they were like had to lay. Anyways, I did a terrible job of shipping,
Yeah.
but
I got my bags. I got the 4 mil ones.
Yeah.
yeah,
Did you get the
no,
square bottom
I found
ones?
a place that had them. I had to get them from a place that did shipping supplies for animals.
Yeah.
Actually, how I
I did the
found them.
Are these the square bottom ones?
Yeah, they are.
They don't look at when they're folded up, but you push them down and they have a flat bottom.
Yeah, they're.
Okay.
And then yeah, I've been practicing with them with the castrator tool. And yeah, and I remember this because I bagged the seahorses before to take them to the aquarium store a while back. But
what
yeah, they flatten out, and then you put another one over it the opposite direction and band that so they're end to end.
Holly's done
But
her research and talked with Dan extensively, and I'm not worried. What I was actually going to say, you guys, is that when I shipped to Felicia, the bag ended up leaking. She got it, and the box was wet. It was missing a bunch of water because I used the long, not wide bags. They were like on their side. It was just terrible, terrible, and the seahorses were fine and ended up giving
Yeah.
lots of babies.
Right.
They're more durable than we act like.
Do you remember Beth Garrity, Pecos Ponies from the org?
Yep.
Okay. Well, make a long story short, she was a breeder. We're still friends, and she shipped some seahorses uh, just before Christmas. Well, somebody dropped something on the bag, and she was up in Illinois. She had shipped, I want to say, to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The FedEx driver saw water, opened the box, saw the seahorses. They were running out of water. He rushed them to the state aquarium there in North Carolina, who put them up until they could track down who was the breeder, which took almost a week, and they got the seahorses back to her in,
wow.
in good
Wow.
shape.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was just one. It was one of those heartwarming stories that you don't really expect. And she was beside herself for a week because she didn't know where the seahorses
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
And they finally tracked her down. And I don't know. And she was calling FedEx, and finally they got a hold of the guy. I don't know the whole situation, but they finally realized they were her seahorses and put them back to her.
Yeah,
Wow.
because if you're calling looking for seahorses, I imagine they don't get too many calls about that. They say, my seahorses are missing. They're always what?
Sorry, I was reading something, guys. To remove her, she refused. I think she might have been going, yeah. Okay, we had a couple questions real quick. And Holly wanted to know, does anyone have an RODI system? And if so, what kind? She's in the market to buy one. Any recommendations on RODI system? No, apparently not.
I
Good.
don't have one. I want one too, but no, I don't have one, so I don't know.
Is your water good there,
Mine
Holly?
is Spectra Pure.
Spectra Pure is considered the state of the art.
Yeah.
Ray has SpectraPure. Holly wants one, but is your water
I've
quality?
had it for about 11 years.
Ours is pretty good, I've heard. I use a water conditioner and tap water, and that's it. And I actually found out my water conditioner, this is kind of funny. I had a little syringe that I was using to measure, and I thought it was milliliters. You know, it's marked all along. It turns out that the whole thing is a milliliter. It was marked in tenths.
Mm.
I was using tenths of milliliters measuring my water conditioner for years.
Oh,
jeez.
no.
And never had a problem. So I
Wow.
guess our water is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I run into, in fact, I was talking with the writer about it, is I'm on a well, and so are they.
Mm.
And what happens is at certain times of the year, we tend to get a lot of silt when we have heavy rains that comes through on the well. Well, what I ended up doing is I basically built my own RODI unit by adding a pre-filter. I'm running 1 micron sediment filter as a pre-filter before anything goes into the rest of the RODI.
Mm.
And
Gotcha.
it saves me a huge amount on filters
Yeah.
and on DI resin.
Sure. And just to give you my answer, I'm a cheapo. So I went online and I found one on, I think it was purewaterclub.com. I'm pretty sure that's what it was called. And it's like it doesn't look like everyone else's. It just looks like tubes connected. And in fact, you can like scrunch them together. I'll have to take a picture or something, but I will say that I have to replace things more often than I think other people do. So it's probably worth your while to go with like Ray's brand, because I have to replace, but that could also be my water because I have really, really poor water where I live. I got a water report, when I was investigating and getting set up for reef and seahorse tanks. And yeah, my water like has, I can't think of the word now. Um, Dang it, I
Ours
can't
is
think of the word.
chloramine. Do you have
Yeah.
chlorine or chloramine?
I'm not even sure, but no, this is like the A word. I keep wanting to say actinic. That's not it. Or arsenic or something Terra. And I was like, what in my water? But what?
Well, you have to be, if you're on city water, you have to use chlorine and chlorine filters.
Right.
To move it out. The biggest thing, too, that I find a lot of people tend to forget about is their TDS.
Right. Testing that, right.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where you really want it as close to zero. And from my perspective, I'd rather change out the DI resin more frequently and keep it as pure as possible.
Sure. No, you're absolutely right, and that's what I'm saying is I have a TDS meter, and I just find that mine maybe other people aren't changing theirs enough. I don't know, but I just find that I have to change the filters more often than I think is necessary. So you can go cheap, but you might end up spending more on replacements.
Well, it depends on your filters too. Like I run the 1 micron sediment filter. Then it goes into through two 1 micron carbon filters. Then there's a third filter, again 1 micron,
Mm-hmm.
and then it goes into the DI resin. So I don't use a lot of DI resin because of that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I hope that helped you a little bit, Miss Holly. But yeah, I went with an off-brand, and you heard their answers. Laura wants to know about spray bars. She has an all-in-one tank, Red Sea, cool. I'm doing an all-in-one too. But you have built-in circulation pump and return pump. Do I need more surface agitation? That's a good question, actually. I should be asking it too, y'all.
If she concerned about whether she needs an airline to increase surface agitation.
Well, like for instance, in the tank that I have, it has two returns, two separate pumps. And so, I can play with that to create flow. But I haven't really investigated to the point where I know whether or not I will need to add a wave maker or something for more flow. I'm used to bigger tanks, so I don't feel like it should, but I'll let you know when I figure it out. But anybody else have an opinion about that? And
Well,
she wanted
first
to know.
thing,
Wait. She wanted to specifically know about a spray bar, I believe. So go ahead, Ray.
It,
well, I think she's asking for something in addition to spray bar.
Oh,
Well, there's a difference between need and say maybe advisable. Like the reason that I would want more flow is to keep detritus in suspension long enough to get picked up more. But as far as actual need, if you check the pH and she says it's 8.1, well, if she's got 8.1 and that's soon after lights out, then she's not having a problem with the amount of agitation because it's taking care of the gas exchange the way it is.
gotcha.
So the only way, if she wants to make the tank better and easier to maintain, then having more flow is going to keep that crap in suspension longer to get picked up by the mechanical filtration.
Right.
Exactly. I run run wave makers in my tanks.
Got to go feed the abs.
Sure. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cheryl.
And basically, the way it's set up is ultimately it blows everything into one corner, any detritus, miscellaneous stuff, into one corner of the tank, which makes it very easy for me to clean.
Mm-hmm.
And it for me, it's a time saver.
Sure. Well, and I've been going back and forth like crazy. I know this isn't answering your question, Laura, but I've been going back and forth like crazy for this all-in-one about sand. I have always done bare bottom tanks, and since I'm experimenting, I'm like this close to going ahead and saying I'm doing the sand. But that would affect how much flow you could have too. I would think. Of course, you can angle it up, and do all like I did in my reef. I've got sand in my reef, but still have a lot of flow. I understand you can do it that way, but I don't know. I guess I was just throwing it out there.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sand gives you more surface area for bacterial growth.
Right.
And therefore, in situations like if you have a power outage or you forget to turn on your pumps or something like that, you're going to have more leeway. They're going to be more forgiving if you have a sand bed before you start getting a big spike of ammonia. The negative is when you have a sand bed and live rock in the tank and it's not bare bottom, is you get a lot more detritus that gets stuck and
Sure.
it's stuck in the tank. And it's like I can just go and spend 5 minutes cleaning a 58-gallon tank and getting all the uneaten food and fecal material and everything else out. It takes no time at all. To try to do the same thing, I would be moving rocks and probably until next week. And
Yeah, I'm not liking the display. My display tank has sand, and my grow out tank is bare bottom, and the grow out tank is a lot easier to clean. I mean, it does grow algae, but it's so easy to wipe it out. I just move the decorations from one side to the other and clean that spot, and then I move them back and clean the other. The seahorses go for a ride, and
yeah, and it doesn't bother them.
In my display tank, I'm vacuuming that sand, and it's always full of stuff.
Yeah.
And I found that the seahorses, because the sand is so fine, they will not eat off the sand.
Oh.
Whereas they used to eat when I had the crushed coral, they would eat off of that bed because they could see the food, I think, and they weren't snicking up the sand.
Sand,
But since
right.
I put the sand in, they if it falls on the ground, they won't eat it.
That's
Or
really interesting.
they used to, but now they won't. And I noticed they tried at first when I first did this sand, and they would get like a mouthful of sand and spit it out. So I think that happened. They're like, yuck, we're not going there.
Yeah.
Has anybody else
They're not
that
stupid.
watches this? Have you guys experienced anybody who keeps sand in a seahorse tank? Have you experienced that? Because that sounds logical to me. That's now I'm really thinking no sand. I keep going back and forth. What were you going to say, Cheryl?
I totally agree 100% with Holly because years ago I had sand substrates and it was you could see the seahorses actively fighting to spit out the grains of sand.
Oh, that can't be good.
Yes.
The one tank that I put sand in was the hybrid. No, wait, it was the reed-eye tank. In my reed-eye tank, I had sand, and it ended up growing this awful black algae. And I just like I'd get rid of it, it'd come back. I just could never get the sanded tank. But it was a smaller tank, for the record. It wasn't like a huge tank, and all, like my other huge tanks. But I think you guys are convincing me to stay with bare bottom. I don't know
Well,
if
the
I
Black
could do
thing is,
was
it.
probably cyano.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you're right. I'm sure it was some form of cyano. It was just I'd never seen it that black before. It was like literal black wisps. It was terrible.
well, the thing is too is it was like somebody was asking recently the question, do I go in with the sand or do I go in or what can I do to make the bottom look like it has sand? Well, he was thinking gluing sand in, which isn't a good idea. But what you can do is there are textured paints. You can paint the bottom outside of the tank and make it look like you have sand if you want that look without the hassles of the detritus getting to
That makes sense.
basically, yeah.
Or you can mix some epoxy with your sand and put it right on the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'll figure it out, but I probably just won't do sand. I had some, um, you know, I was gonna rinse it out and make sure it was really clean, but I just have never had luck with sand. Period. In the reef, yes, but in seahorse tanks, just no. And now that Holly said that, that makes sense to me. That because we tell everybody to steer clear of crushed coral, for obvious reasons and weak snick reasons, but then sand going through their when they snick can't be good. That can't be good. No way. Yeah, I would think it would
Well,
scratch them up.
try anymore. I mean, the one day, the first day they had sand, I think they tried it and then never again. I haven't
Yeah.
seen them.
Well, Laura,
Right.
I'm curious because we're not saying sand's wrong. I'm just trying to decide, frankly, and I'm curious. Do your seahorses eat off the sand? I guess that's the big question for anyone who has a sanded tank. And excuse me. And let's see. Holly wants to know where you get water for your tanks. Yeah, put through the RODI. But I've got a good question, you guys. Do any of you use? I think Cheryl, when you had an issue at some point, didn't you use distilled? Isn't that the go-to if you don't have?
Right. When we had the big freeze in Texas, and I ended up getting a hole blown in my holding tank, I was
Right.
without running water for 17 days. Yeah. And what I
Jish.
ended up doing was having to buy distilled water, which was not available in San Antonio because everything was sold out. I had to have it shipped in to
Wow.
keep the tanks going. And I also bought a actual distiller, water distiller, to help augment that.
Jeez. But I
Yeah,
mean
it was
that.
a
I
real pain.
distilled water. I use distilled for my top offs when I'm not using a lot, but
Yep.
for actual water changes when I'm making salt water, I use a Fluval water conditioner and tap water. And our water is actually mountain spring water,
I was gonna
Hmm.
say
you
you're
know,
up
and
in the
then they add
mountains.
stuff
Yeah.
to it. So it's not probably as bad as city water. I
Well,
Right.
mean, we
Santa
have
Giardia,
chlorine. What's that?
I said, except for Giardia.
Yeah. That's funny you mentioned that. My brother had that when we were kids. My brother got that from swimming in a lake or something somewhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez.
that's no fun.
It's crazy.
But we have like a lot of underground springs here, so that's where our water comes from. So we have some of the
That's very
cleanest
different.
water there is where I live. Actually, I'm lucky in that respect.
Sure.
We have a high iron content depending on the time of year when it rains really heavy, and it flushes
Uh huh.
it into everybody's wells, and you can actually see the iron.
Oof.
And that's one of the
Yuck.
reasons why I run a pre-filter before it even gets into my RDI system.
Mm-hmm.
That's really smart. And Holly, I would
We
just go ahead.
here.
I would just personally say, first of all, your water company, you can get the now I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. You can ask and get a report what's in your water from the water company. That's what I did. And when I found out how bad my water was, I was like, I'm not even trying with tap water. It's not going to happen. And I did go with an RODI system, but I have before, like when I was waiting on it, or at one point when I tested the TDS and I realized that it was needed to be changed and I had to order the filters. I've used distilled. Um, I think that's your definite go-to. It sucked to go buy, 40 gallons worth of distilled, but for like Holly said, for top off or in certain circumstances, it does work. Maybe for a smaller tank, but definitely distilled, not the drinking or the any of the other ones because those even spring. I actually tested this with the TDS test meter. Um, and the spring water was like really high TDS. Now it could have been good stuff, it could have been minerals or whatever, but when you want to start with a 0 TDS and add what you want to it, that didn't really work out. You know what I mean? And so that's my 2 cents on that one.
Well, just because it's natural spring water doesn't mean it's necessarily going to have a low TDS. Because if you get massive rains or severe heat wave where you get a massive snowpack melt, things like that, it's going to wash all kinds of silt
Right.
into the water system.
Sure.
My city water, the TDS runs between 102 and 104.
And I don't think that's terrible, is it? Or is that terrible?
No, that's good.
I was
But
going to say mine
we
was
get
like,
our water from the Great Lakes. We actually, Lake Huron and Lake Erie.
nice.
We have 2 pipelines into the city, one from each lake. And our water treatment plants are excellent. They don't even use chloramine. They just use chlorine.
Nice.
And so for people in the hobby, uh, that's, you can't get any better news than that. And so I'll take this 102 to 104, run it through my RODI, and if I measure it just after the membrane before it goes through anything else, I'm usually down to 3 or 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are lucky. My God, mine was like, I mean, I'm not kidding you guys. I can't remember exactly, don't quote me, but I swear I think it was like 450 or something. I mean, it was just insane.
Even my well water is typically entering first stage is at 10.
Wow.
By the time before it hits the RODI, it's running between 2 and 3. By the time it
Jeez.
goes through the DI resin, it's at 0.
Nice.
I guess my water isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say this, as I said before, I did get an off-brand um, RODI system, but as you can see, it's probably just my water. I mean, the more that the machine has to work, the faster it's going to be depleted and need replaced.
Oh, yeah.
So get your
Now,
water tested.
Yeah, I do go through DI resin fairly quickly, but I'm using the nuclear grade, yada, yada, yada.
Mm,
And the thing is, it gives me the 0 that I want.
sure.
And for just a fish only, it probably is not critical to have a 0 TDS on your DI water or on your RDI water.
Well, okay, final, Dylan, I see your question. I'm about to ask it. It'll be our last question, but just final question about water. What is your cutoff? Like at what point, at what TDS measurement do you determine that it's time to change it?
Depends on what
when I
you're
get to around 2.
Cheryl said what?
Depends on what you're trying to grow.
Well, I mean for seahorses.
Right? What do you go with?
He said
I
2.
go 2.
2. I go 2 when I start to see 3. It's time to do a change.
Well, I've gotten as high as 10 before I changed it, but but you know, hey.
Oh, your macros will love you then.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I was doing macros too. I've got, you know. But yeah, no, it was just like and isn't the typical change, is it 3 months or 6 months that you're supposed to change filters out? I can't even remember.
3 months or 6 months to change what?
The filters out. The DI filter.
I never go by time. I go
Right.
by the TDS.
Well,
Yeah.
no, that's the way to do it. I know they have a recommended. I was just trying to remember what it was. Go ahead,
It
Cheryl.
depends. It depends for me on the time of year. If we're getting heavy rains, I'm going to have to change it a lot more frequently. If we're in the dry spell, where we're not getting a lot of runoff going into the private wells around here, the water is actually very clean.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends on. I have to pay attention to what, if we get heavy rainstorm, I'm going to have to be changing my DIRS and my filters.
Well, I'm right there with both of you, especially Ray, in saying that, you know, the time measurement and even recommended, you should have a TDS meter and make sure that you test. Hey, Lucy, what's up? We're not going to last much longer, but I'm so glad you jumped in. Let me know how you're doing, what's going on with you. It was just open chat tonight, so if you want to share anything, please feel free. Dylan did ask, does anyone know why a seahorse would sleep hanging upside down? His male is the only one that does it, but he sleeps upside down all the time. I've never seen that. I think Ray said.
I have several that do.
You do?
Oh yeah, they're like little opossums. They hang upside down by their tail and sleep. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy to me.
I think it's more common in younger seahorses.
Mm.
And I know, like Lucy Arowana,
She's here.
She had like 10 or 15 all hanging upside down at one point.
Let's see, maybe I can show you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not quite bedtime, but let's see. See, I'm on the other side of the computer, so let's see if you can see them. I don't know where the camera is.
Go down. No, we're looking at the light.
Okay, let's see.
There, okay.
Can you see the
Keep
seahorse?
going. There you go.
You can see some gathered, one's upside down there, but yeah, lights go out pretty soon here, so they're getting ready.
And you notice how they're all hunkered together. That's their safety mechanism.
Yeah, and they all love the return.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of them will hang out on the return like a lot of the time.
It's that flow.
A lot that hang around, hang upside down. But I always get worried when they start hanging upside down for no reason, because I know it's part of their normal behavior. But it's just me.
Lucy says it's because it's the bat horse.
I
mean, you got to worry about COVID getting transferred from the bat horse to you.
Yep.
Ray.
I've noticed they all have their own little personalities, and they'll have like favorite different spots, and sometimes they switch it up. But yeah, they do all kinds of crazy things.
I mean, if they're eating and they're, you know, happy during the day, I wouldn't. And Lucy says she has them doing it. I would not be worried at all. You know, if they stop eating or start acting funny. What, Holly?
As my little guy sleeps, I've seen him sleeping. He'll sleep with his head on a leaf like it's a pillow.
Oh, wow.
In the bed, he'll lay on one leaf and rest his head on another leaf like he's in bed. And yeah, the first time I saw him do it, I was worried he was dead or something, like he died there. And then he came to, lights came on, he came awake and did his thing. And they just have different ways of getting comfortable, I think.
Well, that's and I have to bring up real quick Lucy's awesome tank with the furniture. I just freaking love that tank.
The baby furniture, huh? Yeah.
Awesome. We want to know, Lucy, do any of them sleep in the bed? That's what, or the crib or whatever.
They
Sure.
don't have eyelids. It's hard to tell.
And what were you saying? Oh, and Lucy also said that all of hers that do the bat hang upside down, I'm guessing, are females. So
Yeah.
interesting that Dylan's is a male. What were you saying, Cheryl?
I said they don't have eyelids. It's hard to tell whether they're sleeping.
Yeah, true.
I mean, are they just hanging out and looking for food?
Nap in the food dish. That's another thing I wanted that we never really talked about. That I wanted to see, because a few other people I've talked to, their seahorses like to lay down in the food dish.
Oh, yeah.
Is that a territorial thing, or I found my males do it, and I've noticed sometimes they're doing it because they're comfortable, they're all alone, and they just want to lay there. But they also do it at mealtime. They'll come and lay in the dish so that nobody else can eat. I think sometimes. Yeah, are they territorial about food, that kind of thing?
They would be, yes, because what will happen is the males will, in the wild, will actually guard a territory. And typically, the largest, most aggressive males have the best territories in terms of food and sustenance. And as such, that's technically the male that the female will pick if she's circulating through all the males in the area. So yes, there would technically, from a behavioral perspective, should be a genetic predisposition to guard a food source.
Interesting. So that's why, because yeah, it is my males that do that, but they like to lay down in the food dish.
Yeah, I've watched males. One of my biggest males, going back years ago, he would literally drive all the other males out of the area.
Oh wow.
Eat, and he would allow the females to come in and feed. But
Oh,
until he
wow.
was full, because he was about 90% of the time he was pregnant. So after he would pig out, he would go then into a quiet hiding place behind the rocks and hang out.
Yeah.
And as long as he was up front, the other males couldn't get near the food.
That's
Oh,
so
wow.
funny. I mean, I don't usually use the feeding dish, so I guess I wouldn't have seen that. I've seen the males definitely fight over the ladies, but never over food. Funny.
Well, the thing is, I didn't have a
Females
feeding
from the
dish.
food.
Wait,
I didn't
what?
have a feeding dish. start to put food in the tank and broadcast feed.
Oh,
Oh,
He would go after the other males and drive them off.
wow.
oh my, that's
He
aggressive.
was a big bully.
And what did you say, Holly? You said something about the
Mine
feeding.
aren't that. I said mine. They even block the females
Wow.
or try to, but they're not very effective. The other seahorses just eat around them.
Right? Well, hey, and I
Stop anybody from eating. They might be trying to, but the other ones don't take them seriously. They're just like, you're in the way, and they just
right,
eat around.
whatever, dude. I'm still gonna get my food. Dylan said she only does it at night, so there's that. I wouldn't worry too much, but yeah, and hang on, and sorry, being distracted by someone else, but I will say, as we've discussed the whole night, seahorses have their own little personalities, and I've mentioned it before. I ended up with a bachelor tank with these 3 males that just could not get along with anybody else, so. Yeah, I don't know. It sounds like any food hoggers that were really causing trouble would end up in my bachelor's tank. But
yeah, well, it's the same thing. Like if you're watching a large adult male who has reproduced and made egg transfers with a particular female, and another male starts to step in, the big bruiser is going to nail that other male.
mm-hmm.
They're going to go after them. They're going to drive them off. They may very well pin them to the correct substrate. I mean, it's really isn't pretty to watch, but that's part of the normal dominance hierarchy. And who
Haven't been that aggressive. Mine actually, the new Scrappy Doo stole Sandy's girl.
Uh-oh.
stole Candy. So now it's funny. So Sandy is now courting Sadie, his
Wow.
daughter.
Hey, incest.
We aren't going to go out on that road.
Actually,
Seahorse.
One of my favorites, and I've only seen this happen once, was with a pair of mine, tiger tails.
Mm.
And there was a mated pair. They were dancing. Another male stepped in and tried to get between the female and her chosen mate. She grabbed him with her tail and slammed him
Oh
to the
no.
substrate.
Oh,
That poor guy never had a chance.
Right. I was gonna say I've seen males swim up to a couple courting and like burst in the middle and screw up an egg exchange. I've seen all that. And I've seen, the first time I ever saw a real, knockdown, drag out, two males going at each other, where they were like snicking. I know it's not snicking, but they would
yeah,
like
they like
bite,
snip each other. I've seen that.
making the noise, and literally the other one would jump back.
Yeah.
They get feisty. They can.
But this particular female, I've seen males go after each other. I have never, that was the only time I truthfully have ever seen a female
Right.
nail a male and put him on the substrate.
That is interesting. Because he was her chosen one. Because I've never seen my females fight. Not ever. They always get along. Lucy, you've got all females in that tank. I bet they get along like besties, don't they? What, Cheryl?
I was gonna say, it was just so weird to watch her because it happened so fast, and to have her put a full-grown adult male on the substrate blew my mind.
Sure.
Man.
Ray, have you ever had males, females, any of them fighting?
Not really. You get the odd little tiff now and then, but I've never had anything that amounted to anything.
No knockdown dragouts, huh? Lucy said she had a male.
No, nothing.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Might be something going on for 5 or 10 seconds, pushing and shoving and snicking at, but then it's over with.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
My favorite one was a young male that I raised, a tiger tail, and he was he was still only half grown, and he was inflating his pouch and trying to look like a big stud. And one of the females was interested, kind of, sort of. She was curious, so she kept going over there, and each time she'd go over there, he'd get a little more aggressive in his courtship.
Mm-hmm.
Well, after I watched them for probably 45 minutes, and finally the male grabs her and starts dragging her in circles.
Oh my.
She was not impressed.
I'd say.
After a couple of attempts of trying to be nice and convince him that that was not the way to do it, she swam up and hitched to the top of his head.
Right. She.
And I, to this day, don't know if she was trying to tell him to use his brain to get his head out of his pouch.
I love it. Lucy said she had a male that was taking over the feeder, and other males were only coming when he was done. He was usually staying even full to annoy the other hungry males. So yeah, that's one of that would go in my bachelor tank. Dylan said, it's funny, my female will eat 10 snicks of food, then refuses to eat more. The male, however, will eat about 20 and then go around the tank looking for more. What a pig. Yes. And Lucy said she's never seen a female act like that personally. So, girls are better than boys. We knew it. It's there.
Well, the thing is, when the males are pregnant, they typically are not going to do a lot of hunting. They're going to be more sedentary. And so when they're pregnant, they're going to come zipping in and grab everything they can get.
Sure.
And then they're going to go hide. Whereas everybody else is going to go, yeah, leave him alone. He's pregnant.
Yeah.
When you're talking about males and females here, I never forget my mom telling somebody one time, we had 7 kids, and there was twin boys and twin girls and that.
Oh, no.
And she said she'd want to bring up boys anytime because it was so much easier than bringing up the girls.
Well, I would have to agree. My twin daughters were quite a handful, but within the Seahorse world, it's the opposite, dang it. No, I'm kidding. But
Yeah.
anyways.
There's different personalities with individuals, too.
Absolutely. And Lucy, hey, so glad you were able to jump in for a little bit. If your internet's ever working really good, I can always give you the link for you to jump in the call too. We'd love to see you again, hear from you. live again, but we just appreciate you coming. Unfortunately, guys, I do have to go pick up my daughter. I'm so proud. My 14-year-old daughter has a job. She's working, so.
Yeah, you posted about that.
Yep. I didn't know
I
that.
started at 12,
Well, I mean, what were you doing though, Ray?
delivering for a butcher shop.
Oh, that's awesome. That's kind of a cool first job. Well, I just didn't realize that restaurants and places hired that young. Like
And
we,
Dairy Queen, right?
yep, it's Dairy Queen,
Very
and
cool.
yeah, it really is because I mean, I was the trainer at a restaurant before, and you know, we veered away from hiring anybody under really 18, but 16 at the lowest because then you gotta, you know, certain hours they can work and work permit. So I'm just really proud because she went in there, sold herself, and got the job, you know, and they. So, but anyways, I have to go get her, guys. So I'm gonna have to cut it short for tonight. But Lucy, I feel bad since you finally jumped in, and now I gotta cut it. But
Hey,
um.
let
I
us
was
know when
making a whole
Seahorses
25
are
cents
on.
an hour too.
Ray, thank God she's making a little higher than that. And
When
she's
I
trying
went
to save.
when I was 13, I went to work for a drugstore
Wow.
and I got a big raise. I was up to 30 cents then.
Oh my
I stayed
goodness.
at 30 cents until I was 18, and then I got to drive the Volkswagen delivery bus for $1 an hour.
Oh my gosh. That's so
Hey,
crazy to hear. I mean, they're
when I
desperately
was
trying to raise minimum wage now, but even that's so much better. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I don't remember if I was 10 or 12, I had a newspaper delivery route where I rode on my bicycle and
Aw,
delivered the newspapers every day to people that had subscriptions.
nice. That's awesome. I think it's great. And I'm, you know, I like I said, I've got twins. So one daughter's working, the other one's like, no, I'll pass. So gotta be proud of the one working, I guess, right?
They're twins in birth only.
That's right. Exact opposites. But anyways, appreciate you guys all coming again. Fun chat tonight, and next week, oh, you know, I'll let you guys know for absolute positive. But as far as I know, we're gonna have Sir Richard Ross here next week, and I'll post a little more information about it and get us ready to jam next week. So you guys, I do have to cut it because I gotta go get her. So say bye.
Good
Hey,
night.
Polly,
Yeah.
I'm glad you got one of those, the seahorse hanging thingies.
Oh, yeah, the hook.
That was so funny.
Wait,
Yeah,
tell me real quick, what is it?
that same one.
Wait,
That
what
was
is it?
free. Anyway, good night.